Okay, Patsy, first of all, how do you pronounce that last name?
Widakuswara.
Okay.
Try it. Try it.
Widakuswara.
Kuswara.
Okay, that's all right.
Close.
Let me try it
Almost.
again. Say it again.
Widakuswara.
All right. What is that? What nationality?
Indonesian.
How do you spell it?
Widakuswara. And let me tell you something. Indonesians, especially Javanese, where my ethnic group is, we don't really have last names. So both my names are made up, completely made up. My parents' names are different. My brother's names are different. So we don't really have a family name. So mine is just made up.
So what brought you to Voice of America?
Well, it's kind of a long story. Where do you want to begin? I mean, I came here from London. I was working for the BBC. I did go back to Indonesia for a little bit, but London and then VOA. But but I've been a journalist all my life, and I can't imagine being anything else. And I've been in television, radio, and then television for about, 20 years now, 22, something like that. Yeah.
And you say you're from Indonesia. Where in Indonesia?
Jakarta.
Which is a big city.
Mm-hmm.
You grew up there, went to school there?
Yep.
And then your big jump was to London?
Yeah, so actually, journalism, although now I can't imagine being anything else, kind of fell on my lap. You know, I mean, I didn't set out, like after college, I didn't know what I was going to be. I didn't have any idea of, what I would like to do or anything. But I did start with my friends in college, the first debating society in Indonesia. At that time, this was 97, 98, so this was under Suharto. So any kind of critical thinking is like a big, no. But we did start that, and then through that, when I was debating on stage, somebody saw me, one of the judges saw me, and then right out of college, she offered me a job at the TV station that she was setting up.
And was your job as an anchor or correspondent?
As a reporter first, and then as an anchor. And then I got a scholarship to study television journalism from the British government in 2001. And that's when I went to London, and then I worked for the BBC working on a documentary, and then I came here.
What was the documentary?
It was called Spend, 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 about consumerism and how, we just followed a couple of people who won lotteries and see basically how quickly they spent that money.
Well, what was the biggest sort of surprise between Indonesia and London?
The biggest difference, you mean?
Yeah, for you.
Well, I think the biggest difference for me being a journalist back home and being a journalist in the UK and in the US is that in Indonesia there's this thing called the envelope. So when you go out, cover something, you're given an envelope.
By whom?
By anybody whose story you're covering.
You're actually given an envelope?
An envelope with money in it.
By the person you're interviewing?
Yes.
So you get paid by the person you're interviewing?
You're supposed to not take the envelope, but that's the term, which is basically a bribe to make sure that your story is positive. And that's just something that I've never encountered anywhere else. I mean, I've only been working in 3 countries, but that's really the one thing that I'm most grateful about, is that I never have to, face that and deal with that anymore.
Is that still going on in Indonesia for journalists?
In some ways, yes. I mean, we have a free media market and we have laws for freedom of the press, but it's a country that's very much influenced by the political agenda and also political aspirations of media owners. It's very much more overt than it is here. And also the profession of journalism is maybe not so much considered in high regards as it is here. So, yeah, it's a big deal for me not to have to receive envelopes, be offered envelopes.
How long were you in Europe?
2001 to 2003.
And why did you leave there?
Well, I met somebody and I wanted to be together with him, and so I started applying here. And I mean, he's American, and so I end up here.
So was this your first job in the United States? Was it Voice of America?
Yes.
What are your thoughts about Voice of America? It's big.
Yes. And when I first started, to be honest, I was bored because we didn't have, I was a first television production that the Indonesian service hired.
And when you talk about Indonesian service, I mean, just sort of from my view, that just means like an Indonesia TV studio, right? I mean, you do all Indonesian.
Yes, our entire programming is in Indonesian, but we do multi-platform, web, digital, social media, radio, television. I was the first television person that they hired. And basically, because they started hiring me and then they started hiring other people who have had experience working in the television industry back home and so have connections. And so we're able to establish this affiliates-based strategy. So we basically don't produce anything unless it's carried by a national television station in Indonesia. And because of that strategy, we actually contribute 25% of the entire VOA audience. I mean, our weekly unduplicated audience is 28 million.
And you broadcast in your native language. What language?
Well, it's Malay. It's called Bahasa Indonesia, which means Indonesian language. But my mother tongue is Javanese because I'm from Java. This was just a language that they picked we picked when we became independent from the Dutch in 1945. And they basically had to pick one language out of the many, many languages there. And they picked the simplest and the one that's not based on caste. So they picked Malay.
How many languages can you speak?
I speak Javanese, and Javanese itself is like 5 different languages in one language.
And out of those 5, do the 5 different ones understand each other? The 5, or are they really distinct from each other?
Well, the island of Java, for example, there's East Java, Central Java, and West Java, and the languages are very different.
So if you're from East Java, you might not be able to understand someone from Central?
East and Central may be able to understand each other a lot more than West.
Okay.
So, and then within Central Javanese, because it's a kingdom of Yogyakarta, it's also very caste-based. So the verb and the noun for, when you're speaking to your peer or your parents or the king or the dog or the child is very different. So it's like 5 different languages.
So 5 different languages within Java. All right, and then what other languages?
Well, there's the island of Sumatra. There's 17,000 islands. I mean, the main ones are 5, but there's just amazing cultural diversity.
So how many languages? Let's go back to this number. There are 5 within Java. You got English, obviously.
Well, 5 within the Central Javanese dialect.
Okay.
It's like 5 different languages, but let's call it Central Javanese.
All right, and then, and English, obviously. What else do you speak?
Indonesian.
And Indonesian is separate from the Java?
Yes.
If you speak Indonesian, do you understand Java or not necessarily?
Well, everybody's taught Indonesian. It's the lingua franca of the entire archipelago.
All right. Are there more?
Yes. I mean, I speak a little bit of French. I mean, I studied it a little bit, but not really.
Okay. So you broadcast in what language here?
Indonesian.
And what do you do? Like, give me an idea of what you do during the day.
Well, what I do is basically I take care of the American politics news for television. I manage a small team. I assign, coverage. I look at people's scripts, and then I also anchor some shows.
And with family back home in Indonesia?
Yes.
Do they watch?
Yes. Well, my mom's kind of bored of it now, but yes.
She's bored of it. Why?
She's like, oh, okay. She'll only comment if she's like, oh, I don't like your dress, or
that was
you need a haircut.
That's exactly what my mother used to say. My mother's living. She'd say, actually, she said my hair once looked like a weed patch.
Yeah.
But so got comments on the clothes and everything.
Yeah.
So do you find American politics interesting?
Yes, absolutely. Especially now.
Especially now.
Yes.
What kind of reaction do you get back on your reporting back home about politics?
Well, it's been really interesting because obviously under Obama there's the whole connection with Indonesia, and then under Donald Trump there's this whole big reaction about the anti-Muslim sentiments originally in the beginning and the anti-immigrant. So there's always a lot of angles with which we can reach people, and because let's face it, all politics are local, right? I mean, people are more interested in what's happening within their community and their countries, and so it's really hard to sell American politics to an international audience without giving them context, without giving them something interesting or something juicy that they can relate to. And I think that's what we do the best.
What do you think your friends back home in Indonesia find the most unusual about the United States politics or United States?
Guns is always an issue that's mind-boggling to a lot of people. So every time I produce a story on guns, it's legal under the Second Amendment, and then explain a little bit about the Second Amendment, because we have to give people context, right? Because in Indonesia, it's unthinkable to own a gun if you're a civilian. So yeah.
Do you go home often?
Yes.
How often?
Once a year.
And do people recognize you?
Yeah, like if I were to be in a Uber or at the dentist or something like that, yeah.
Do you love your job?
I love my job.
Why do you love your job?
I don't know. It's just like even on a bad day, like I feel like I'm doing something right.
If you hadn't done journalism
I can't imagine.
You can't imagine what you would have done?
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I like table setting.
So what, a waitress? A waitress?
No, like Martha Stewart table setting or something. I like crazy over-the-top table setting.
Well, that's fun. Anyway, thank you very much,
Thank
Patsy.
you.
Happy to get to know you.
Yeah.
It's fun. Anyway,
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.